Bill takes a copper sheet and draws freehand on it with a dry point needle. He then inks up the plate with a roller, getting the ink deep in the lines that he has created with the dry point needle. He then rubs it off with tarlatan and finishes it up with a hand wipe, so that all that is left on the plate is the ink in the lines. He then places the plate on the bed of the etching press, and a dampened piece of paper is placed on top of the plate, and then it is rolled through the etching press. The result, of course, is a black and white image. And now we come to the final stage. Each print is painted with watercolor, which means that though each image is the same, the prints are different because there is no way that Bill can get the same colors for each print. He has done prints of Portland, this one of the Newmarket Theatre, joggers, an everyday scene in America. Ghost towns, this one Shanneker in Oregon. Cabbies. A courtroom scene from Nashville, Tennessee. Cowboys, Bill loves the rodeo. Drifters. The rich shopping in Palm Springs. The Cubans in Miami at Domino Park. New Orleans. Bikers. Jazz. Limited to 100 of each image signed and numbered by Bill. It is presented in a handmade box, and each portfolio is authenticated. Along with the portfolio, we did a limited edition book. It is limited to 750 copies. It is hand-bound in leather and printed on the finest 100% rag paper. It was all printed in Portland. And it depicts, in drawings and words, our ideas about the United States.
first arrived, we decided that we'd like to record Americans in America while the impressions were still fresh in our minds. She in words and me in drawings. So off we set. And we went through one car after another. I believe we went through about 10 cars and approximately 100,000 or if not more miles. And we were fascinated with America. It wasn't at all what we thought it was. It was far bigger, far more interesting. And what we have, I think, that is in a book form and a set of etchings, I believe we have quite a unique history of America in the 80s. I think so.
If it can be said that any artist has found a perfect form of personal expression, then G.H. Rota has found hers. Collectors from all over the world treasure her work. In fact, more than 60,000 works by G.H. Rota have been sold to discerning collectors throughout the world. Collectors who repeatedly respond to the vast reservoir of intuitive sensation G.H. Rota has tapped deeply into and fully expresses in her work, and which she has meticulously carved, chiseled, and hammered into copper and printed on fine handmade paper. Leaving home in northern Germany at the earliest possible moment in her life, the young woman joined a brother studying design at the Academy of Pforzheim. A safe place, but inappropriate for a youthful woman determined to become a fine artist. Nevertheless, the young Gotje remained at the Academy, studying, later to marry her professor, Kurt Rota. When she was not taking care of a young family, G.H. Rota continued to draw and paint, showing her work at first to her husband, later exhibiting in group shows. Public acclaim grew, resulting in her first one-man show, sales of her art, commissions. This recognition led in 1968 to the prestigious Villa Romana Award, coveted by every artist in Europe, allowing her a year to live and to work in her art in Florence, Italy. Later, she traveled widely, embarking finally for South America and the United States. Arriving in New York in December 1970, G.H. Rota set up a small studio in a corner of an unheated $60 a month apartment she found in the East Village. It was in 1973, and during her first experiments with mezzotint engraving, that an extraordinary metamorphosis occurred in her work, leading to the exquisite refinements of her later pieces. She begins creating a mezzotint with a simple drawing, sketched directly onto a copper plate with a dry point tool. The drawing continually evolves as the plate develops into its final form. Specific areas of the plate are gradated with a rocker, a chisel-like tool with a rounded end, allowing it to be rolled or rocked from side to side as it moves over the surface of the copper plate. The blade of each rocker is serrated with parallel grooves ending in points that pierce tiny holes into the copper plate. Magnified, these holes appear as a series of pits and burrs, which will later catch the ink. This lengthy process develops the ground, a shimmering field of lines crossing in countless directions, the area upon which the detail of the composition will be drawn with a dry point tool or burnisher. The number of hours that will be expended rocking and burnishing depends upon the size and complexity of the subject. Often she will work more than 500 hours before a plate is finished and ready for printing. This demands tremendous physical strength and limitless patience. Many painstaking hours later, this sheet of copper will have become a plate from which the first impression or master print of a G.H. Rota original mezzotint will be pulled.
My efforts of learning mezzotint, which took me 10 years, justifies itself in the results. This forgotten technique yields to my intuition through my hands. In this way, I have complete control of the entire range of gradation of tone, as well as the liveliness of the line, unobtainable in any other process intended for multiples.
To G.H. Rota, the process of drawing on or crushing and smoothing the surface of the grounded plate is a process of bringing light out of darkness, a metaphor for her work and for her life. G.H. Rota develops her subjects through painterly gradations of tone from light to dark, rather than through the engraved line alone. As she draws with the burnisher, the rocker lines are smoothed, leaving spaces on the plate where ink will not stick. As consequence, this burnished area will print white. Repeatedly, she goes over an area with the burnisher, creating the transparent images which are so characteristic of these extraordinary mezzotints. But line and tone are not the only concern of the artist. Execution of colors is another.
Color determines and explains, also intensifies my purpose. Gradations of hue are as important to me as gradations of tone.
With the help of her assistant, Krista, the inking process is begun. The plate is inked with the darkest colors first. The next lighter color is added, which in this case is a deep blue. Then a brilliant red is added. Where she wants a specific hue, one color is carefully hand-wiped into another. Hand-wiping creates highlights and simultaneously drives surface ink down into the plate.
The skin of my hand, in the process of hand wiping, cleans the metal plate better than anything else. I am able to achieve a wide gradation of hues by directly blending one color into another. This process is repeated as many times as necessary to achieve a perfect balance of color and tone.
When the inking has been completed, the plate is put on the traveling bed of the press in preparation for striking the master print, which becomes the guide for all future printings. The soft, thick paper, which has been wetted, absorbs the ink efficiently. It is covered by 3 layers of felt, creating an elastic thickness between the plate and the steel roller of the press. The felts draw moisture from the paper, causing the simultaneous absorption of ink from the plate. The pressure of the roller forces the paper into every line, crevice, and irregularity on the plate. The burrs pierce the delicate surface of the paper, allowing the ink to penetrate deeply into the fibers. Each print is milled through the press twice, so the paper will pick up the maximum amount of ink. The vibrant colors and delicate tones on this master print become the reference for all future inking and printing of this particular issue. G.H. Rota's life is as one with art and one with nature. Few of us are ever able to communicate our thoughts and feelings as she does with her work. Truly, she has found her own medium.
When you plant some trees, you can have a specific purpose to please yourself, to hide, to play in them. But there could be another reason, that you planted life. You planted life.
The making of a work of art begins as a road to be traveled, and at each fork in the road, there is a choice to be made. The artist makes thousands of choices as the image develops to the point where a proof can be made. G.H. Rota roughens the surface of the plate with a rocker. Rocking is the predominant physical act of mezzotint making, and is to the mezzotint artist as chiseling is to the sculptor. Both are a form of shaping. In this proof of threat gesture, the entire plate, approximately 2 feet by 3, has been thoroughly roughened with countless passes of the rocker. In the second proof, the horizon line is established. The bodies of the horses take on more form and weight. Here, 2 horses' heads are added. Compositionally, the piece could be complete. G.H. Rota's vision, however, leads us deeper to an electric relationship between line and tone, shape and color. In the fourth proof, all figures have become translucent and tonally similar. In the fifth proof, the artist has rocked and darkened the background. In the sixth proof, a dominant white mare appears for the first time. In the seventh proof, veins and musculature are more clearly defined. The illusion of depth is created through foreshortening and torquing of figures. The plate is, for the most part, finished. Threat gesture occurs on a huge scale. This is a physical experience unlike the artist's earlier horse subjects. Early proofs from the G.H. Rota mezzotint Leaps and Bounds appear to differ very little. Each, however, is one of the more than 20 proofs printed by the artist to determine the precise locations, tones, and hues of color.
The simplicity of two, an inward focus, complements their aura.
One day, the artist was given a dahlia blossom by a friend who raises these beautiful flowers. So touched was she by the gesture that G.H. Rota drew a spontaneous sketch of the delicate flower on copper. The sketch became the first and final outline for Sunrise Dahlia, which exhibits the essence of what the artist excels at, detail. The background has been rocked in regular arcs, becoming a deep velvet distance behind the exquisite dahlia petals.
Growth lines trace the petals as they fold and turn away from sight.
One day, the artist's master printer, Krista, returned from the Northern California kiwi harvest with these little fruits. They found their way into G.H. Rota's studio and onto a copper plate. The thin glass of the bowl and the sliced kiwis hold the center of this work, drawing our eye back from the edge and from the twisted vines. A peacefulness pervades the still, clear atmosphere.
The seeds in their irregular orbit round the center.
Pacific Coast is a departure for G.H. Rota. The texture of the pine bark is as much a landscape as the distant cliffs. The artist leaves the viewer to ponder the unexplained darkness behind the pines.
The pine bark measures distance in needles and coves.
While most all of G.H. Rota's large dance works have a dark and brooding aspect beneath the surface, whimsy is unencumbered in this way. The dancer's legs are sculptural and opaque, Yet their bodies grow more translucent until finally, their fingers seem transparent.
Their fingers stretch translucent as if conducting light.
Manitou is the Algonquin word usually translated as spirit or mysterious. Rather than a being, the word refers to a quality of the supernatural, present in many places. Our perception of the mezzotint is altered when, as we observe it, we find we are being observed.
Think about this waterfall. Water, ice, or light?
The transparent central figure rises toward its astral body, the invisible body in which the spirit can temporarily travel away from its earthly form. G.H. Rota uses color to draw our attention upward from deep red to purple, teal, and turquoise. With each gradation, the emotional tone shifts.
The heart is at the center of the maze. Only color lifts from this dense core.